elephant and I'd rather be killed off.
And you're listening to
They're Here.
Podcast.
A discussion.
A dissection.
Of all things horror.
Fear.
And the macabre. I don't know how the fuck we even, start to begin to explain this. Today we have Hereditary, 2018. Holy
Hereditary.
Shit. Where do we begin?
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's huge. This film was directed and screenwritten by Ari Aster, the most legendary director of horror currently in cinema, by a long shot. There's no one that can beat him or be on his level, apart from Robert Eggers, I might add there. Produced by Lars Knudsen, who is the producer of A24. He's the distributor. Cinematographer, Pavel Pogorzelski. I want to say, I'm probably butchering that, but I definitely want to say it. Because this cinematographer has worked with Ari Aster from right back in college days. You know what I'm saying? This guy,
my personal favorite, Zelski.
He's awesome. He's cinematographer to his sophomore film, Midsommar, or Midsummer, depending on whatever way you want to say that. Also, iconic legend of the movie. And then, weirdly enough, Munchausen as well, which is just an awesome film too. And then, composed by Colin Stetson. You and me, we have talked a lot about, and we'll get into it later, but you and me have talked a lot about the music and the score to this film. And it plays a huge role.
I told you, this score is my, getting off the train, going into town. Nobody fucking look at me music. You know what I mean?
One particular track.
I'm sorry, I'm a god. Everybody move out of my way.
Colin Stetson, to put it into perspective for you, he is a part of Bon Iver, and he's also a freaking collaborator with Arcade Fire, which is oddly strange.
Yeah, they toured together.
It just kind of makes sense where the music that you hear in Hereditary and the scoring, it just makes sense. Does that,
yeah.
You know?
I'm liking this trend of a contemporary artist doing scores for movie a la Tom York with Suspiria.
Yeah.
You know,
I love the modern
twist. It's a good
twist.
choice. It's a very, very good choice.
The use of, not necessarily strange instruments, but a strange usage of instruments. It used to be back in the day where it would be dragging of piano strings. And nowadays, Colin, in particular, when he was composing the soundtrack to this film, he used rusty trumps and saxophones and all these kind of things to create these weird noises.
It's actually quite beautiful, though. It's just the kind of scale of the sound is what makes it kind of terrifying, and the fact that the soundtrack, we'll get more into the soundtrack later, but the fact that the soundtrack is kind of I know a lot of directors say this, but I think Ari Aster actually really, really meant it when it's the score is another character in the movie.
Yes, absolutely. I would agree completely.
The score is giving a voice to characters kind of unseen.
I think we should talk about the elephant in the room, Miss Toni Collette, because Toni Collette has recently, at least in my opinion, started to become more typecasted in her roles, whereas before, I think her previous film was Krampus. So, she's moving...
kind of indie movie, kind of generally more comedic almost.
Yeah, she's always...
kind of black comedy. She's in Little Miss Sunshine as well.
Live,
a very
laugh,
black comedy.
Amazing movie. Can't fault that movie at all.
The Fright Night remake, the 2011 Fright Night remake,
exactly.
Which is also leans comedy.
Toni Collette is an amazing performer.
She's a fucking star.
She's a star.
Yeah.
And when I say talk about the elephant in the room, the fact that she wasn't even nominated for BAFTA, Oscar, or any of these things is criminal. She was snubbed for her role.
Honestly, it's such an insult where it's this is horror is famously snubbed by the award seasons, which... whatever, that's their fucking problem. But it's there sometimes a performance comes along where it's you can't deny it. This woman acted her fucking heart out in this movie. This woman really just give her a fucking Oscar. Give her Toni Collette a fucking Oscar. I'll say it till the day I die.
What was it? The last time there was a movie, at least horror adjacent, was Silence of the Lambs?
Silence of the Lambs is one of the big ones. Again, we'll get into this on a later date, but people, I feel like, try and discredit Silence of the Lambs wins by saying that it's not really horror, but it is. It did the big five, where I think it won best female lead, male lead, best film, best writing. I think it won. It kind of swept.
Definitely.
Like awards that.
It knocked a lot out of
that
the
would
park.
have been one of the ones I can think of that really, really got the recognition. But even then, like, I consider Silence of the Lambs horror, but even then, it's kind of like, yeah, but can we get some awards for things that are like straight up horror? Like this, I would say that this is very much so straight up horror.
Speaking of getting kind of sideswept and things like that, Gabriel Byrne plays Steve, Toni Collette's Annie's character's husband, who until recently, you mentioned it to me that he was a psychiatrist, and I didn't realise this until a lot later on. I was like, what? Yeah.
And it's fucked up. Annie is a former patient of Steve, which is
blew my mind.
Insane when you think about it.
I didn't know that.
And just kind of adds a whole extra level. Because throughout this movie, we'll see that he kind of is like assessing her in a way.
It's almost mistrustful.
It is. It's kind of, it doesn't seem like the interaction between like wife and husband that you would expect. It does seem like he is like observing her and kind of studying her a little bit.
Yeah, like an experiment.
Like you don't really see that once you get that kind of like extra level of detail.
Speaking of extra level of detail, Alex Wolff, full on hooer of a method actor. Sorry, actually should mention Gabriel Byrne. The last time I saw him really in anything that I watched fully was Usual Suspects or Stigmata, which is fucking awesome. So if you haven't watched Stigmata, go watch it.
We should definitely do that on the pod.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, if you want us to review Stigmata, let us know. Leave it in the comments below.
I say this as I'm literally looking at a Stigmata poster on my own. I fucking
live. Alex Wolff. Get into it now. Once we get like further down the character line with him, but Alex Wolff is just one of those characters one of those actors who really builds himself up into the role. So much so that he had to get therapy after this film finished wrapping up filming. It was crazy.
Yeah, he claimed that he had like a kind of a PTSD almost after this movie. Because we're like reading in I have some things in notes where he really like threw himself into the role, and it actually seemed like the whole cast kind of did that. A lot of them would interact with each other off camera in character.
Weirdly,
I've heard that Alex and the next person we're going to talk about, Millie Shapiro, they would go out to lunches, stuff like that together in character, and kind of build that relationship off screen. I commend that kind of work though, and it really does show. It really does pay off.
He also introduced himself on set on day one as his character Peter, day one, and when it finished wrapping, he reintroduced himself as Alex on the last day of filming, which is so highly commendable to me. Say what you want about some people who might take it a little too far with sort of method acting and things like that, but I like that. I like the dedication that's put into that. It can be detrimental at times, but I really like it though.
I think it really does pay off, especially in a movie like this, where it's like this family really does feel lived in. It does feel like there's real tensions there, like there's real like backstory there, like there's real history there.
You mentioned her, Millie Shapiro, in her debut role in
Icon.
I mean, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's I can't do it. Millie, she was only 14 when she filmed this, and to me that's absolutely nuts. I love the fact that she plays this sort of catatonic weirdo that just prefers to stay away from literally everyone. Like, she doesn't lock eyes with anyone most of the time. She doesn't.
No, nearly always looking down, kind of like.
That's okay.
Always, even her body language is very kind of like she's always kind of got her arms up like to herself. You know what I mean? She's very kind of cocooned in a way.
Yeah.
And like again, we'll get into this later when we find out what we find out. But I think this is like a very, very complex role for a 14-year-old to play, especially in her debut role. I don't know if you know, she originated Matilda on Broadway. That's her.
Correct. Yeah.
That was her thing, and this is her screen debut. I think the kind of scope of the character and the kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, the kind of nuance that she would have to bring by almost playing two characters.
Yes.
I think she killed it. She fucking killed it. And the way they kind of style her.
I mean, literally. She killed it. We'll get into
Millie
that.
Shapiro has a very distinct look in real life. With this, they kind of pushed it a little bit further by giving kind of almost scars. She looked like a brilliant role.
The amount of like these sort of amazing characters and how strong they really do act well together and thing is also very reputable to Ari Aster himself. Ari Aster, I think Toni Collette, what did she say, Lee? She said like he's the most prepared.
Well, he's the most prepared director she's ever worked with.
And it speaks so much to the level of intelligence that this film has, and it speaks wonders, because I think I said this to you, is like I see A24 on a very higher level of horror where I'm starting to see intelligence and more stronger roles and more power to...
Yeah, like we've said this, I trust
to horror.
And they put their stamp on.
Exactly. As soon as I seen the trailer for Midsommar, for Saint Maud, which we will review, you know, we'll get to it, you know, like as soon as I see this, as soon as I see that stamp, that really cool like changing A24 logo every time, I'm like sold. I am sold as soon as I see it, because that's... Speaking
of trailers, one of the trailers when this was coming out was actually accidentally screened in front of a screening of Peter Rabbit in Australia.
I heard about this.
Which is like a child's movie. And yeah, apparently people just fled the screen and like complained. Because this was a trailer that made me kind of... All I needed was one trailer to be like, right, okay.
It scared the ever-loving shit out of them. It terrified them. Like, speaking of that trailer, I only saw one trailer. I did not see anything else, because I think I actually only seen it the day before the premiere, because my brother took me to see it and I virtually knew nothing about this film. And I think this is actually the first time I've heard of A24 outside of like Ex Machina, all of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was sold. Like, I didn't know what I was going in for. I mean, I know now. Like, I
well, even the trailer itself gave you just a few crumbs. It really didn't give anything away.
It was
nothing just away. Enough. And A24 again is very, very good for that, for giving you just a taste
to hook you.
Yeah.
Speaking of hooks, the opening shot to this film, well, there's sort of two opening shots. I sort of define it that way. Is first of all, we get what you call it. It's like a card or an invitation for a funeral. I don't really know what they're called, but it's Ellen Taper Lee, and she was 78. She passed away after a prolonged illness at her daughter Annie's house, meaning that this film only actually came out, I think it was 2 months after her death.
Like it's yeah.
She will be missed. So this is just the first thing.
I didn't know where you were going there. I was like, wait, are we literally getting a family tree? And I was like, no, that's the
So that's just the opening shot. So I think it was about like 20 seconds that you had to read this, and then we move very quickly into a shot of the inside of a room with a diorama on it of a house.
Yeah.
And I think this is so intelligent because it speaks, literally the first shot speaks to, you know, existentially revealed later on. It speaks to the power of Ari Aster's shot raking. Everything is powerful. It just really, really does it well.
Yeah, this is where we get the zoom in on the miniature.
It's just very powerful. And it leans directly into Peter's room, which is, if you know what happens later, spoilers. If you haven't watched it, go watch it now, because me and Lee, we don't give a fuck now. We're gonna lay it all out there because we want to fucking lay it all out there.
This is one of the only movies that I would say, like, if you haven't seen it and you're lucky enough not to know what happens in it,
go fucking see it.
Go watch it and then come back to us. It really pays off to not have this movie spoiled for you.
You'll thank us.
That's all.
You will thank us.
And that's all you're getting for now.
This film, it's about grief and a family drama. This is exactly what Ari Aster said. It's a family drama that curdles into a nightmare.
Yeah.
It does it very quickly. I mean, it's a lot of suspense build-up, which I absolutely adore in a horror movie. I really, really do. I love it. This is just one of those films where, like, if you blink, you're going to miss a detail and you're going to think the last, like, 20 minutes of the movie was completely out of nowhere, when actually it was told right from the beginning all the way through.
Yeah, like they big drop hints. I was actually speaking about this movie last night. I was saying it is technically a slow burn, but there's kind of not many scenes where I feel like anything is just dragging. There, like every scene has like a purpose to it. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing there just to fill time. I don't feel.
It's very
Which again,
true.
I appreciate. I do enjoy a slow burn. I do enjoy suspense, but I think Ari Aster just has a way with just dropping little crumbs, leaving a little trail.
Little
exactly.
sprinkled stuff.
Leaving you wanting to know more.
I would warn anyone about this film, specifically because this film, like I said earlier, it deals with a lot of grief and pain, anguish, and things like that. So if you're a person where that sort of thing upsets you, this film might not be the best idea for you, but for sure, if you're a horror fan, this movie is the cream of the crop. It's exquisitely crafted, dread.
It's not a fun movie. I wouldn't say
really
that
isn't.
at all. It's very, very heavy.
There's little to no relief from one scene to the next. There's literally no happy thoughts that come from this movie, and I felt like I needed to chain smoke after watching this thing for the first time.
The fucking thing I did, I walked out of the cinema with like 4 cigarettes between all of my fingers, bro. It was so upsetting.
So upsetting. So Annie's detached eulogy, Toni Collette's character, surprised at this eulogy, her mother's open casket funeral, and she's
wow, I'm surprised there's so many people here. She basically is like, I don't know who the fuck any of you guys are.
Yeah,
anyway.
She's surprised her dead mother attracted such a crowd. She explains that their relationship and her mother's extremely private life was something of a burden to the family, because she does explain it later that her mother goes from bad to worse, and then she dies, and it wasn't a huge blow to Annie and the family.
And she even mentions that her mother would be suspicious to see so many people here, which is our very first inkling of something going on behind the scenes.
There's also like loads of like little subtle hints here already. Now, I actually have been told that the scene of Annie telling the eulogy to the crowd that are sitting amongst her family, apparently Anne Dowd's character Joanie is sitting in the crowd, but she's very strategically hidden. But I don't really know. I didn't notice it, but apparently she is. Anne Dowd's character Joanie does sort of like bring it up. You'll notice that later on. She does kind of pop herself in there in different places, but I didn't notice it there, but apparently she does.
I know we noticed upon rewatching this again when we did.
Which was hard, by the way.
It was hard, but oh god, I laugh right though. But which is so funny, we somehow found a way to make jokes throughout this entire movie, even though it's literally one of the like heavier movies I've ever watched. Notice that she actually is in a couple of the scenes in with Annie later, but it's not exactly. She's kind of just there. We don't really pan to her at all like that. Another filmmaking detail that I really appreciate with Ari Aster, things that are in the background that are not focused on.
Yeah.
It's for you to pick up.
Like you just said there's a lot of weird things that happen at this eulogy. Like, for example, Charlie going up to the casket and seeing that creepy guy standing in the corner with the bleach blonde hair. He's not even smiling. He's sort of sneering at her. He's like, kind of weird. And then there's a woman who comes up to the casket and she puts something on Ellen's lips.
Getting the lips.
Like, it's weird. And then of course we get that shot of the sigil on Annie and her dead mother's necklace, which we'll get into later on. We'll sprinkle it now, but we'll get into it later for sure. Charlie is eating chocolate. We also get a setup
of the EpiPen.
Of the EpiPen, that's exactly what I was about to say. Charlie is eating chocolate, and which I don't understand. Charlie is eating chocolate, and Annie turns out, she goes, does that have nuts in it? Like, we don't have the EpiPen. So, like, immediately...
Why don't you have the EpiPen?
Why wouldn't she have it? It just doesn't make sense to me. But, like, I guess it does because their family is very dysfunctional and, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, but a quarter of that family is a doctor.
That's true.
Her dad is literally a fucking doctor.
We get back to the Graham house. There's a funny few little scenes here that just tells me how dysfunctional and how unupset by the grandmother's death it is. Steve, the father, goes into Peter and asks if he's upset, and he sort of shrugs it off. He's like,
they're both just kind of like, meh, whatever.
Annie literally asks Steve, should she be more upset? Which is even weirder to me.
Yeah.
It's
but
so
also,
weird.
Also sounds like something you would ask your psychiatrist.
That is true. Again, like, there's a detail that, like, I did not see before. And again, this is actually something that I was speaking to you about, is the fact that even years after we had seen this film, there were still more fucking details that we'd missed and that we're only catching now rewatching it. It's just, it speaks more to that intelligence.
And, like, even now knowing that, you kind of picking up on Steve's dialogue, where he's kind of like, he's questioning Peter, and he's like, "Look, I get it. I understand. It's very, very doctorly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is. It's
He's very impersonal as well. He does not seem very comforting. Like, he's asking these questions, but it doesn't seem to be from like a compassionate kind of stance.
Yeah.
It seems very like just trying to like work somebody out in a way.
It is. So the first thing I do want to point out is when they do get back to the house itself. I pointed this out several times to you. The fact that this house dwarfs the people living in it. It's so big and stark and just crazy to me. Speaking of which, that house was made on a soundstage. That whole thing was made on a soundstage. Crazy detail put into that house. And it was again there to make them feel small. Like they're being controlled by something, or, you know,
like a miniature. There's a couple of scenes where we see the outside of the house, like the exterior, and it's shot in a way where everything is in focus, so everything looks like a miniature. Everything looks scaled down. Yeah. Which is like a weird little feature. And we have a couple of shots where like the outside of the house will be daytime and then it will just cut to night. It's the exact same shot but at night. I love little touches like that.
Yeah. I really do. Strangely enough, the only person who does seem to be upset by this is Charlie.
Well,
which is evident by when she sits in bed. Annie tries to comfort her by saying, like, Grandma loved you the most out of everyone.
You know you were her favorite. You know your grandmother fucking hated your brother, don't you?
Annie does explain that. So here's, like, starting to like build up weird connections and things like that, but Annie's mother, Ellen, would not allow Annie to breastfeed Charlie, which is...
How do we see this in detail later?
We really do. Like, there's... Oh my god, we'll get into it, but there's like a diorama of that. She says, like, very ominously, like, who's going to take care of me now? And she goes, oh, well, I am. I'm your mother, silly. I'm going to take care of you. But she goes...
But when you die.
But when you die... And then, like, they're just very, like, weird. You know, Annie does say, like, Charlie never cried, even when she was immediately born, didn't cry at all. It's just, like, I mean, that's the Omen to me, bro. That's the Omen.
And I do actually want to keep note of a couple of these little things for when we get into things later. Like, a lot of these things kind of do become explained, I guess. I actually also wanted to know, is Millie Shapiro playing to her age? Because it almost seems as if Charlie's very childlike. I don't want to like assume anything either, but it kind of seems like she has social anxiety, some kind of almost a learning disability even, because we see her in class later not being able to perform work and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm curious as to whether she was playing to 14, make certain choices all the weirder, I guess, if she's still in grade school.
I also just want to say there with that finishing note is this is the first time that we see a word inscribed on a wall, and it says satiny. Not sure what that means, but satiny.
I know her.
So Annie
Satiny
goes...
St. James Van Cartier.
Delacroix. Come to the stage.
Dupree, Davenport, Montrese, yeah.
Annie is just finishing up in her workshop, and her miniature workshop, and she just notices that she has left some boxes of containing her mother's things, and she's going through a few things. She sees like a photo album, those mats that she used to make and things like that, and then randomly notes on spiritualism. Which I just think like, wait, what? There's a note which is strangely addressed to her, hidden inside that book, which is, I'll just bring this down to...
Oh my god, I'm a nosy bitch, plus she's fucking dead. She's not gonna fucking mind if I read this shit. Also, if I'm finding a box that's like interesting looking books and diaries and shit, I'm going through everything.
Yeah.
Okay?
This note is addressed to Annie, and it is from her grandmother, her dead mother, and it goes, "My darling, dear, beautiful Annie, forgive me of all the things I could not tell you. Please don't hate me, and try not to despair your losses. You will see in the end that they were worth it. Our sacrifice will pale next to the rewards."
You're a dead mom.
You're a dead mom. Immediately following this, she slams the book, locks away the boxes, and goes to leave the room. Annie, seemingly thinking she can see her dead mother standing in the corner in the dark.
Now, this shot, when we were watching it again, was ruined by custom television setting. Because, watching this, in the theater, it's obviously set up in a certain way so that you can barely see her.
Mm-hmm.
It's you really have to focus in. But watching it on a television with brightness turned up, it looks like there's just a woman standing right there.
I do remember sitting with my brother in that cinema, and that was literally the first thing that I knew something fucked up was happening. He didn't notice it first, but I noticed it, and I was looking at it, and I immediately grabbed his hand. I just remember, because of the music that Colin, the composer, puts into that scene,
Colin.
It freaked me the fuck out. It really did.
There were a couple of moments like that, and again, I feel like this is almost like an Ari Aster signature, is things like that where you might not necessarily realize them.
Yeah.
I know,
it's subtle.
I did exactly the same thing with my friend. There's a couple of scenes, almost, towards the end of this movie,
mm-hmm.
where it was just a grab the arm, do you see that? Do you also see that? I love that.
We will get into it, trust.
Well, going through these boxes, this is another one of those scenes where it's if she had just dug a little bit deeper, there would be no movie.
Literally,
you know what I mean?
Underneath, because she picks up that book later on, and underneath it is the book. I don't want to spoil it now, but it's literally the book.
Yeah, underneath is the script for this movie, basically.
The final 20 minutes of the script.
Literally, bro. Yeah, and then she sees this chick later. It's oh wait, fuck you, actually. I so don't need to know you.
Oh my god. We then get a quick cut to the following day, which is... And first up is Charlie's class.
This was me. This was literally me in fucking school. Do you want to stop fucking drawing in the middle of fucking class and do the work I made for you? How about we finish the toy later? Okay?
To which she's making this weird toy, which they make an impact later on. We keep alluding to shit that happens later on in this film.
I know, but it's just because this movie, this is a movie that really does benefit from watching it twice at least.
A pigeon of all birds comes up and breaks its neck against the window of the classroom.
Did you notice it? Did you notice it flying in the background?
I didn't. I just noticed that.
I only noticed once it banged into the window. Yeah.
And all the kids freak out, and she goes down during I was about to say recession, recess.
Now I like recession.
During recess, and she steals a pair of scissors and she removes and decapitates the head of the pigeon and stuffs it into her hoodie, which is just...
And then take the bite of the chocolate bar afterwards. She turns around to be did anybody see that? And then just takes a bite of her fucking bar.
Peter's class. Now, if this wasn't one of the biggest foreshadowing things in this movie, I don't know what to tell you, because it's literally played out, apart from Peter just staring at the ass of the girl in front of him. It's literally told to Peter and the audience what's going to happen later on.
This is also a Halloween reference.
Yes, it is. I caught that as well, and I was thinking about it later, and I was wait, where have I seen this before?
In every fucking Halloween movie that's ever been set near a fucking school or anything like this. How many fucking Halloween movies is there where somebody's sitting in a class learning about fate?
Mm-hmm.
It's in all of them. It's literally in all of them. I like that though. Just a very, very small little...
It's a hint, but it's also a really strong, direct hint, because the tale that the English teacher is talking about is Heracles' flaw. Heracles, if you don't know, is a Greek myth. Basically, he's a poor person who gets fucked over worse and worse and worse because of an oracle's prophecy. He refuses.
Yeah, like there's no zero to hero. Like Hercules' family is dead as fuck at the end of those tales.
He gets fucked. Totally fucked.
Did I say Hercules? Heracles.
There
you go.
Get your ancient Greek mythology right. Yeah, so basically Heracles refuses to look at the literal signs placed before him leading up to his inevitable doom. Now, I mean, if you don't want a fucking red sign, like, flaring up in front of you like shit's about to go down, I don't know what to fucking tell you.
For real. Yeah, it's always some kind of Greek tragedy, because so many of them Greek stories are all about, like, being fated for doom. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. You're already on the path.
Yeah.
Like, you can't turn away. You can't get away from it. Which is like, yeah, it's just that big kind of existential, like, you're fucked. You're just fucked. Yeah. There's nothing you can do about it. And you don't even know it yet.
And the best thing about it is it can be almost interpreted as cosmic horror as well, because, I mean, we are dealing with forces outside of the known universe toward the end of the film, where, like, human knowledge is flipped for the entity's knowledge. Does that make sense? Like, they don't work on your terms of existence, you have to work on their terms of existence, you know? It's just so weird.
That make me think of a demon, like, filing their nails, being like, it'll happen when I'm ready. Okay?
But it's also true. Steve gets a call from the cemetery, and he doesn't want Annie to hear anything about it, because obviously he wants to be a little bit more sensitive to her. So he walks away, and he finds out that Annie's mother's grave has been desecrated, that the body has been removed, and he literally said the first response he has is, "It's only been a week." And I'm like, wait, what?
The desecration wasn't planned until April. Yeah.
I was planning on doing that myself.
But this is another detail where I feel like Steve is a little bit more... He's not as neutral as he's kind of seemed to be portrayed in this movie. We'll see that he holds back this information, which kind of, later on in the movie, makes Annie look fucking crazy. And then he, like, judges the shit out of her for it.
Yeah.
And I feel like if he had told her these details as they happened, there would be less reason for doubt, like, on herself, like, on her own mind.
Yeah.
Which I think is fucked up.
In my opinion, again, it just speaks to the whole not directly dealing with grief, which is the whole theme of this film, is not dealing with grief healthily, can totally fuck you over. It can make you paranoid.
That's the thing, is that, like, the true monster of this movie is grief.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
which again is another
kind of
Ari Aster signature in a way. You know?
Annie goes to a support group.
Yeah, she's quote unquote going to see a movie.
Yeah, you see, there's another thing. I don't understand. There's another lie that's made on Annie's behalf that only further exacerbates the problem each time that it gets worse and worse.
Because if she was to say, I'm going to go to some kind of counseling or some kind of therapy, that would, like, throw doubt in his head as to, like, well, why wouldn't she speak to me? You know? And, like, she kind of makes it very clear that, like, don't come with me. I'm going to go see a movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like an invitation.
That's actually something I thought of as well. I was like, hold on, you know, if she was making the excuse to go to a movie, would he not ask, do you want me to go with you? Or something like that, you know?
That would, yeah, exactly. If we were, like, hanging out or something like this, and somebody was like, yeah, I'm going to go see a movie, I'd feel left the fuck out.
Yeah.
Well, what are you going to go and see? Huh? You know?
Annie is... I mean, she's in this place. And this is where we see Joanie. She's literally in the corner of the room, looking her dead in the face.
In a crowd shot, by the way. Well, not a crowd shot so much, in, like, a group shot. She's, like, almost not even in frame.
Oh, it's just so... Her. She does explain...
Yeah, when they, like, pan into it, we were like, oh my god, there she is! Because we, like, knew to look out for it this time.
We totally freaked out. Annie does explain that her family has just been super fucked.
She gets into it. She starts out by saying that her father died of starvation. He starved himself.
He suffered from psychotic depression. When Annie was 2 years old, he died then. Her mom suffers from DID, which is dissociative identity disorder, and dementia. And of course they were estranged, but, like, it only further exacerbated the issues, of course, as Annie's mother got closer to death. And then she gets to the weirdest, again, like it's another not a red herring, like a red light flashing, going off, saying this is where it's fucking coming from. Her older brother...
This is a red flag factory right here.
Oh man, like Ari Aster literally is spelling it out for this family. Her older brother suffered from schizophrenia and he hanged himself. God damn.
Yeah, she carries this whole scene by herself, and it's kind of just like unbroken, like 8 minutes of like just straight dialogue of her like breaking down her entire family history there. But I love that though. That one little line was just enough to hook me in. Was like her mother was trying to put people inside of him. Yeah, that's the first thing that like pricks my ears up. You know, it is weird. Upon rewatching it though, it is very much so like they're just telling me what happens here. Yeah, like really. Yeah, you know.
Peter is chilling out. He's smoking a bong.
He gets a text. There's a party at such and such's house. Bring your dick.
Bring your dick. Like, who says that? Who says that? Like, I've never said
the
anything
straights,
like
I
that.
guess.
By the way, I've only watched this film 3 times since it came out, because this film is just so emotionally upsetting to people that I don't want to watch it over and over again.
It is. There's actually been a couple of times where I've gone to watch this movie. Like, let me watch this. And then it's just, you kind of start it off and you're like, I'm really not in the mood for this. Yeah. This is not the kind of day I want to have. Yeah. Which is not a detriment. It really isn't a detriment at all. It's just, it's kind of a punch in the stomach of a movie.
It really is.
Kind of takes the wind out of you a little bit.
Yeah, like this is a film that you gotta pay attention to it, but you've also gotta be mentally prepared for it, you know, because
it's a full plate. There's a lot on your plate with this movie.
It's as much a movie about like tears and sadness as it is a horror film. Yeah, you know, it really is quite a strong thing. But Peter is
like,
smoking...
you could take out all of the like horror elements of this movie, and it would still be
so
just as impactful.
Yeah. Like you could turn this film. You could turn this film into, like, just, if you took out the supernatural aspects, maybe if you cut out the last, I want to say, 15 minutes of the movie, you could turn this film into a psychotic, nervous breakdown of a family.
Family drama, yeah.
Exactly. Like, certain things that I noticed, like, he's smoking his bong and someone is watching him.
The treehouse.
The treehouse.
Another triangular building. Ari Aster, I see you.
I see a theme coming through here.
But yeah, but like it's not even explicitly shown. It's just he blows out, like he exhales, whatever, and then we see from the treehouse somebody else has also exhaled, but it's just the breath in the cold. Yeah, which is such a great little touch. Or there's like certain things that like you wouldn't think are significant. Like you might notice them, but you wouldn't think they mean anything. Yeah. And then they do upon rewatching.
Charlie is sitting in her room and making, you know, those little idols. Which, by the way, you told me this and I found it so fucking amazing, is the fact that A24 sold them on their website.
Yeah, for real. The person that like made all these for the movie or whatever was commissioned again by A24 to like remake all of them and to make like new original ones and just sell them on the A24 website.
This is the first time that we see the kind of blue flashing aura light kind of thing, I want to call it, because I don't know how to describe it any other way. It's hard to describe because, I mean, of course, we don't really know what this thing is. It's just there, and it's not explained.
It's like a scan. It's almost like the room is being scanned.
Yeah, or watched.
Yeah, but with kind of, it almost looks like a thin ring of blue fire almost.
Yes. Charlie goes outside, and what do we see?
See Ellen.
Naked grandma lady. On fire.
Having a campbell time by the fire, yeah. What a wonderful camp experience it's been.
While this is going on, I know Peter goes into Annie's workshop where she is currently working on her gallery exhibit, setting up space. And he asks if he can borrow one of the cars tonight to go to...
It's just a school barbecue thing, yeah.
And she I love the way, like, she's so direct with it. She just goes, are you going to be drinking? And he goes, no, why would you do that? We're not even allowed to, we're not even old enough to drink. And she goes, well, that's a crock. I'm just asking you if you're going to drink.
This is weird. I like this interaction, actually, because it's kind of the only positive interaction, kind of like nice interaction we get between the two of them for the entire movie. And like, it is weird because it seems already like he's like up on the defense with her. He already is against her a little bit, and she's just kind of like, well, I'm just asking. Like, I just want to know.
Annie makes the decision that if you ask and Charlie goes, then yes, you can take the car. And
she's not in high school. She's not even in his school.
Yeah.
Which seems so like the whole point of it is so that she goes to meet other kids, but it's like when she goes there, she's the only like actual kid there. Everybody else are like teenagers.
Is like, a teenager.
Like, teenagers.
It's just so
she also doesn't know what kind of party it is, though.
Yeah.
Because to her, it's still presented as just a quote-unquote school barbecue thing.
Yeah, school barbecue thing.
She doesn't know it's a party where everybody's going to bring their dick, you know?
And
Charlie,
cake,
bring your
weirdly.
dick. We're going to the party.
And on the way, Charlie sits in the back. She's extremely quiet, apart from making the noise. I can't do it. Fuck's sake. You just keep doing that through the whole thing. They pass by a telephone pole with a similar sigil to the necklace that Annie and her mother wore at the funeral.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
But also another detail of like, they show it, but they don't. Look at this symbol. This symbol is going to be very important later.
Blink and you'll miss it. All that
exactly. Kind of it's just a very like small detail. Very small.
They get to the party. And like,
because she forgot to bring her dick.
I've told you this before, where this is the scene that really made me as a person feel uncomfortable, because I've been in that situation where like I don't know anyone and I feel so uncomfortable and like I feel very vulnerable and like literally everyone is ignoring me.
I feel like a sore thumb. And like this is the scene that made me feel like really like sad. Yeah, because she's kind of. It's weird. She's like a full foot and a half shorter than everybody else. She's like, she's dressed in bright orange. She's again kind of like looking down to herself. And
she's also doing that thumb twiddling thing. You know that nervous tick.
You just want to scoop her up and give her a hug in the middle of this.
You really do,
because Peter kind of brings her there, and
he's a dick.
He literally ditches her. Yeah. Well, he brought his dick and his weed. But he literally is just like, oh great, go have some. Well, he's kind of not that much of a dick about it. He's like, go, there's cake.
No, he's
like, go and ask for some. I'm sure they'll give you some.
He's a dick. That was a dick move to do.
But no, it was a dick move. But it's not like he gets there and he's like, bye. Like, he doesn't like dump her there. He kind of does encourage her to like. Yeah, he does encourage her to kind of go and talk to the people making the cake a little bit.
But that can be really hard to do. And that scene. Like, fast forward a scene, that would be the scene that I would fast forward over, because not because it's boring, but it's just so uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, it's another real life horror, like the horror of social anxiety.
Yeah,
you know,
it's really
especially
scary.
For a child. You know, she doesn't know a single person.
She gets cake. She starts eating it very like aggressively, I might add, and then she starts drawing in the corner again. Like, it's just really awkward and like. Who does that?
Yeah, how many times have you been that, though? Good thing I brought my fucking sketch pad to this barbecue. How many times have you done that?
It's really upsetting to watch, and like, I don't even like dwelling on the moment. It's just really weird, and like, I see so much of myself in that moment as Charlie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. I know exactly what you mean. But it's like that's why this movie could work, like, even without any actual horror in it, is like these everyday real life horrors of family drama, social anxiety, grief, things like that.
Yeah.
That are just kind of overwhelming. It's a feeling that you feel like, you can't really get away from.
Yeah.
You know?
I keep coming back to Ari Aster, but like, this is how Ari Aster unsettles an audience. The creepiest things. Now, I know like the next scene, which is horrifying because it's nothing to do with anything demonic or witchy or anything like that. It's just you're after getting high and your sister is having an allergic reaction. what are you
Yeah,
going
just
to do?
Panic again. Another everyday kind of a horror.
It's
She
totally
comes into the
frightening.
room and she says, "It's hard to breathe. My throat is getting big."
Yeah, I can only imagine the dread that Peter feels immediately following what Charlie says. So he takes her and he puts her in the car, and he is he's out of there like a bolt of lightning.
Yeah.
Down the dead motorway. Everything that happens here takes place in Utah, and Utah has a huge amount of highway desert area.
And you can see absolutely nothing besides what's like. You can see maybe like the peaks of the mountains against the night sky, and everything else is black except for because there's no lights on in the car or anything. It's just the headlights
and the red
I
lights.
remember even saying to you, I was like, "Where the fuck are they?"
Yeah,
like Jesus Christ.
I know when you seen it in the cinema, when I seen it in the cinema, because this happens 30 minutes into the film, and we all thought,
are we getting ready to say it?
We're getting ready to say it. Spoilers, I shit you not, this will ruin it for you, so if you have not, stop listening, go watch it now.
Yeah, this is literally your last chance to have this
There's
very
no turning
unique
back. No
cinematic experience.
I have never heard an audience silent.
Very big collective gasp, and then nobody says anything for the rest of the movie.
Peter is speeding down the highway. She opens up a window.
She's writhing in the back seat.
Writhing, kicking, she's coughing and gasping for breath.
Yeah. So Charlie she's just taken down the window and she's hanging out. She's got half of her body outside the car.
Terrifying.
And Peter is asking her, like, is she okay? Is she okay? And he's trying to kind of, like, look back at her, and he swerves right up against a light pole, and we see just a flash of Charlie's eyes kind of opening, and then her head is taken clean off. And we just get that, like, a crunch. And this was the moment in the cinema where everybody in the cinema did a collective silence for the rest of the entire movie. It's like the Psycho scene. It's just one of those things that just comes just completely out of left field. And it blew me the fuck away. It really, really blew me away.
Yeah. So
like the moral is that Charlie was dead. In that instant.
So I remember, and the same thing happens with Peter, because he's slammed on the brake. His foot is, like, his whole body is tense, right? And I was at the same in the cinema with my brother. I just very, very slowly relaxed myself, and then Peter's
it's
the same.
When everybody did that gasp, I didn't let that breath out until he gets back to the house. Maybe even after that, it was so like I just remember it literally feeling like somebody had just kicked me in the stomach and just be like, oh shit! Like it's very, very hard to move me with stuff like this in a movie. Honestly,
it really did, because like this film had my undivided attention from that moment onwards.
This is where I said, okay, it's on. It's fucking on. They just killed a kid.
Yeah.
Who we thought was going to be the main character.
Yeah,
she was in all the trailers.
Yeah.
She was on all the posters. Oh, God. Just so brilliantly made. And I'm very glad I went to go see this when I did, which was kind of like a day or two after it had come out. At like 10 o'clock at night or something. This was very almost limited release in a way. Most A24 movies tend to be over here, which was nice because it was like not a super full theater, nobody was really like making noise and stuff like that. This setting was right. It was late at night, It was creepy coming out of this movie this movie clocks in at like just over 2 hours, I think, and coming out of the theater to an empty car park. Like, there's nobody around except for the people that have just been there. And, like, again, that's, like, one of the things I noticed. Nobody was, like, talking much when everybody came out of the cinema. Everybody kind of, like, went out.
Very quickly
had
just
a cigarette.
Pulled their jackets up and walked away into the night.
Had a cigarette as soon as they came out.
Yeah.
It was,
Now,
excellently made.
I don't smoke, but I needed a cigarette after watching this film. Definitely after that scene, for sure. Peter ends up very slowly drifting with his sister's headless corpse in the back seat all the way back to the house. He doesn't look at it. He doesn't. He barely breathes. He just stumbles out of the car in the dead of night and goes to his room. and he doesn't sleep.
It's almost, we follow his face from the car up to the room.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where he kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. He kind of just like, Charlie, are you, like, it's like he almost goes to ask her, is she okay?
Yeah.
And he kind of decides, like, what's the point? Like, he knows she's dead.
Yeah.
You know? Because we get a very, very small flash of him looking in the driver's mirror.
And he just immediately darts his eyes back to the front.
Yeah, we don't get to see anything. Alex Wolff, just really excellent acting. Really, really terrifically played this role.
He gets into bed, he doesn't sleep, and he lets his mother find the body.
I'm just running out to go get some balsa wood. You want anything?
We don't see this. We only see it from the face perspective of Peter. Toni Collette's performance, again, this is another scene that you're just like, why was she not given the Oscar? Because, like, the anger...
This scene, the kind of emotion that she's showing, seeing that on screen, it feels like somebody just punched through my chest and ripped my fucking heart out.
Yeah. It's
like, that's the kind of, like, you've heard that crying before.
It's anguish.
And that kind of crying only happens when somebody has died.
Wailing and screaming and shouting.
She's in hysterics. She's hysterical.
Yeah. I'll never forget that quick cut to Charlie's head on the side of the highway. With all the ants like just crawling all over it.
And the mouth and the face, the lower, like the nose and the mouth are just smashed open.
Yeah.
There's teeth missing. The jaw is way too far off to the side.
Yeah.
It's just another indicator that I was like, this movie really did the fucking thing. This was like a little bit of like levity for me, where I was just like, okay, this is giving me everything I want from horror.
Annie being held softly by Steve, but she is just rocking back and forth on the floor and screaming.
Notice the position she's in also.
Yeah. She's in a... It's like, I want to say it's a birth...
She's on her knees with her arms flat out in front of her on the floor as well.
Yeah.
And she's just screaming. She's saying, I just want to die. I just want to die. I can't. Like, oh, God. Again, just this scene alone should have gotten her a fucking Oscar.
Yeah.
I'll say it till the day I die.
Yeah. Like, again, it's one of those hard things to watch. It's another one of those things where Ari Aster unsettles you and freaks you out and just totally like pulls you in by like a hooked claw, you know. It's just
soup and sandwiches in the parish afterwards. Come on, ladies. This is the point where the movie starts to turn blue. The lighting is different from here on out. The score is different, you know. This is very definitely Act 2. This is where the movie becomes something different.
Like, there's no goodness left in this film. It's horror from here on out, you know. It's grief and horror from here on out. There's nothing good. The family only turns more inwards. Everyone becomes more closed off from each other. Annie no longer sleeps with Steve. She sleeps up in the treehouse where Charlie was sleeping in the beginning of the film. Peter is practically catatonic.
Yes, we do.
I don't know how Peter deals with this. I don't know how he kind of like puts himself back into school, or at least puts himself together to go back to school, because he reimagines.
That's what everybody does in fucking horror movies. All of my friends just fucking died. My little sister just got her head crushed directly because of me. Sure, look, I'll go to school. What is that? People in horror movies are very dedicated to education.
I know. I think Annie goes back to only what she can deal with, which she goes to grief counselling. And
it's like group counselling, where everybody sits in a circle.
Yeah. She decides to turn around because she doesn't want to face it yet. But she's stopped by...
Welcome to the stage, Joan!
Joan! Kaka, boom, yeah.
Now this is where we get like a funny little conversation, right? And we watching this last week, this is where we fucking lost our shit, where Joan is trying to like talk to her about stuff, right? And she's like, I don't want to embarrass myself. And then it's like, I could not think of her just like like making a stupid face or like trying to do a backflip or something. So much so that when we were watching this movie, we were like, wait, pause. And I had to take this note, but I couldn't find a pen, so I had to write it all the way up my arm. Yeah. And the note literally was, Joanie embarrass herself.
Joanie sort of says like,
hey, I have a dead person too. Let's hang out.
Like, which is to
yeah,
be
she's
there
like
with
almost
her.
grabbing her by like the fat of the arm by being like, be
like,
my friend.
Here, be my friend. Like, very weird.
Joanie's like, come on around for tea. Let's go.
Annie is
oh, that kind of shit. He's so unimpressed with that stuff.
So professional.
Blah blah blah. Subliminal messaging. Blah blah blah.
And then a kid's head gets knocked off. Annie is making miniature models again of the house, and she's doing Peter's room when, again, for the second time, the blue light shows up and it rushes around the room and knocks over a jar of paint that drips onto Joanie's number. Therefore giving Annie the inkling to call Joan, to get in contact with her.
This is so like a supernatural element, just being like, hey, go look at that thing. Like, go.
Forcing
check
her to
my
text. She goes and meets with Joanie at her apartment. They sit down for tea, and this is something you pointed out to me, is the tea has some weird leaves in it.
It's like a herb. I almost said an herb. It's like a herb or whatever, and which I also think this is a direct nod to Rosemary's Baby with Tannis root.
I definitely
thought they were going to like try and tie it up that way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that herb is kind of used within the community, I guess. I don't know. Like, again, I don't want to like say too much, like just yet, but like, yeah.
Hey, listen,
it's used much in the way that Tannis root is used in Rosemary's Baby.
Spoilers are abound, dude. If they've gotten this far into the podcast, then for sure, I mean, they've kind of ruined most of the movie on themselves.
Okay, well, yeah, so this, like, particular herb is kind of used as, like, an influential thing within this cult, which we've seen with Charlie having it in her ball and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Annie does describe an event that happened a very long time ago.
I believe she said that her son and her grandson Louis died in a car accident where they drowned, I think.
Yeah. She explains further about an episode where she was sleepwalking, and Annie says that she covered both her son and her daughter in paint thinner and herself, and just woke up as she was striking the match, and freaked the fuck out of them, and they never really kind of rebuilt the trust. It's kind of hinted at they never really trusted her again after that. It's a very fucked up kind of reveal, and like you can see even Joanie, like, I mean, I know Joanie's kind of fucked up by the end of it as well, but like Joanie's
like, yeah, no, I'm invested in hell and demons, but you're fucked up, lady.
She looks at her in such a strange way that, like, did you really just say that to me? Kind of thing.
But yeah, Annie just says it as if it's just like, yes, I was doing this one of the days, and so I poured paint thinner all over my children and myself, as you do, you know. Yeah.
Steve walks in on Annie in her workshop after making the dinner, and finds Annie making a neutral view of the accident model.
It's so funny to me.
In case anyone was wondering, that I did the quotation air marks, because she literally says that, trying to defend what she's doing, which is, I can understand, because it's probably her trying to understand the accident herself, but
it's her art. She's trying to cope with it.
Yeah, like, Steve only sees it as, like, you're trying to hurt Peter here, aren't you? Like, you're aiming this at Peter.
Have you seen that meme where it's like he walks in, it's like that scene in Hereditary where the husband walks in and he's like, Jesus Christ, Annie, and she's like, what? That's what it looked like. But like literally he walks in, he's like, fucking hell, don't let Peter see this.
Like,
you know.
in case, just for context, Steve walks in on Annie making a diorama of Charlie's death. It's a cut-off point of the motorway with the telephone pole, the head,
and her head
lying on the side of the road, and her body, like, weirdly one arm hanging out of the window.
You're like just cruising, just chilling.
The dinner scene, like,
oh god, don't at me, you little bottom. Yeah.
Now, this scene it's the heart and soul of the film, because this is where everything is put out into the open finally, because of everyone's grief, everyone's anger, everyone's exhaustion. Everything is culminated in this one scene, and it's really, like, it's a career defining moment for Toni Collette's performance, because
this is the Oscar reel. This is what she submits.
Like, this is what would go up on those big screens.
Yeah, imagine Toni Collette is going up to collect her Oscar or whatever like that, and it's her like like on the screens in the back. It's great, and Steve kind of takes a really like kind of neutral again psychiatrist. He kind of just lets them argue with each other, but it starts out really, really small. It's like, don't sneer at me. He's like, oh, she goes, don't sneer at me. And he's like, I don't sneer at you. And she's like, you don't have to sneer at me. You don't have to sneer at me. You get your point across, you know?
Yeah.
Why are you looking at me with that face on your face? You know?
It's hard. It's another one of those scenes where it's really hard to watch. And like, you can't look away, but it's really hard to watch. And I can see
it's hard to watch, but it's one of those where it's like these people are acting their fucking asses off.
Yeah,
like, it's just masterclass. It's really good. Like, this really sets a bar.
It just eventually explodes where it's like you say it. You just fucking say it. And Annie's character, Toni Collette's character, just explodes like, don't you curse at me, you little shit.
I am your mother. Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It's just so good. Annie
just keeps saying, like, if we could have done something about this, or if it could have brought us together,
if it had brought us closer together,
face up to what you've done, but your sister is dead. She is dead, and I wish I could take that from you, but I can't forgive, and I won't forget it. She just explodes. She just explodes. She goes, because nobody admits to anything they've done.
But then after this, Peter's kind of like, you made me invited to the fucking party, Mom. What about you?
And that's, to me, that's where Peter kind of jabs it back at her. Peter just wanted to be venomous and spiteful, and that's
exactly
why
what it was.
dead.
It was completely out of spite. Like, with Annie, you genuinely felt like it was just like, I've been there a million times where it's like you're almost being nonsensical, but you're saying everything that's coming to your head because it's like how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And everything comes to a head and just kind of spills out. And to be honest, she was right. Like, I think she had like a lot of valid points of the whole thing of like, it just feels like such a waste. Like, if we could have even come closer together through this, and it just wasn't. And I think eventually Steve is kind of like, that's enough. Like, that's enough.
Yeah.
Once Peter starts kind of like jabbing back at her.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. Peter is just like, yeah, well, what about you? You dick.
Yeah, like, Steve's character, again, like, we have to stress that Gabriel Byrne's character is very much just there. Like, he's not part of the plot pushing it forward. He's just a character that's helplessly, like, it was like what we described when we were talking about The Shining last week, is when Danny and Wendy are just these helpless characters being dragged along into the situation. Steve, the father, is the exact same. He's just a helpless character that's being dragged into this horrible thing that this family... fated for doom, this family is that he married into, that he sealed his fate technically when he married Annie, when he joined that family. And I really feel for him, because I mean, he does get it later on, but like, I really do feel for Gabriel Byrne's character, And, you know, it's just really, it's really upsetting to, like, see him shrink back as well.
Gabriel Byrne.
I love Gabriel Byrne. I think he's amazing. The following day, Annie is coming out of the art supply store. Now, this is something you pointed out to me, right? I did not think of this in the same way, but I doubt it is. But you said...
Is this the Midsummer thing?
Yeah. You said Danny and
no,
Christian...
I think it is bullshit.
For context, Danny and Christian are characters from Ari Aster's subsequent film, Midsummer. And apparently they walk by Annie into the arts and crafts store, but I don't believe it. I think it's kind of like a headcanon. Like, people are like, oh shit, that looks like them from behind. Yeah.
Like, it would be cool if, but like, I doubt it. Although, wasn't that a thing though, that like Ari Aster was writing Midsummer for like a good while before this movie even was produced, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe. It's like a cool little what if to have. I only fucking wanna love your work. Yeah, she like runs right over. Oh, Jesus, that was shrill. She might as well like hop from one foot to the other, like, oh my god, Annie, I fucking love you. And like runs right over to her. And
Joanie's like the way I want to describe Joanie in the scene is just like she's completely comical and yet hysterical at the same time, because like she turns up and she's like, "What are you doing? Oh my god, what are you doing? You won't believe what's happened to me." I've had an awakening.
It really sticks out.
Yeah.
Like, in this movie. Like, she's the only one that isn't sour grapes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's very jolly. Which, like, in a way, played against everybody else.
It cuts the tension.
Across as sinister.
Yeah. She cuts the tension of, like, anything that's going on prior to her or anything that goes on after her. You know, in terms of, like, scenes that come and scenes that follow. Like, as soon as she turns up, she's like, I'm a breath of fresh air. I'm here. I'm happy. You know, all that kind of thing. I just think it's so fucking funny. You know, and her character, like, I mean, considering who she actually is and who she is revealed to be, it's just super fucking weird, man. You know?
Yeah, man, it's a mad one.
She contacted a medium and that she was able to start talking again to her dead grandson. Like, how do you respond to that?
This is where we find out her drag persona is Seance Knowles. Oh my god, girl, how have you been? I can speak to the dead. What did you pick up from the store? Is that some balsa? You know, just picking up something for like, I can help you speak to your dead daughter. Oh my god, you look great. Yeah.
What are you doing? Come over to my house. Come over. Let's go.
What did you pick up from the store? A dead grandson? Yeah.
They skipped Lou back to her apartment.
Yeah, literally hand in hand. Like, yeah. Like, they're on the Yellow Brick Road back to fucking Annie's apartment.
Colourful Wickerland. Oh my god, it's just hilarious. Like, we immediately immediately cut to the darkness of her apartment, and she lights a candle. Like, girl, mood setting.
That's what I even said to you, like, when we were watching this again. I was like, yeah, but, like, do we have to do this in the fucking dark? I mean, come on, bro. Loosen the purse strings a little bit, Joanie. Your light bill is not going to be up that high from one fucking lamp on. You can turn that fucking sconce in the corner on a little bit, bro. I can't see fucking anything in this room.
Read the bitch.
Just one candle, one solitary fucking candle in the middle of the fucking table.
She whips out a chalkboard. She whips out the chalkboard and she immediately starts asking Louis, who is her dead who is apparently
Louis, can you hear me? Yeah. That's exactly what it is, though. It's totally that fucking scene from Yentl.
It really.
My dead grandson, are you near me? Yeah. Dead fucking kid, can you find me in the night? Yeah.
So
she doesn't give a shit about her son. It's only her fucking grandson that she ever talks about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Annie is immediately freaked out by the fact that the chalkboard is reacting to these questions.
Yeah.
And she's like asking like, hi Louis, how are you? Do you remember this? Or blah blah blah. And Annie is fucking freaked. She is like, she does all the things that I would immediately do myself, which is
like the looks under the table for strings and shit like that.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, she immediately does it. And then again, this is something that I realized after watching it a third time. The little, very, very dim this time, but that light is there. That blue, like, kind of scanning light is very dimly lit behind Annie's head, and it breathes on her. The hair like immediately like flips to one side. Oh, it freaked me out.
And we noticed actually when the lights flick back on, there she has like a little it looks like a little birdhouse where one of the that was all closed up, and then once the lights come back on,
it's open.
The doors to that birdhouse is open.
Yeah.
I see again, tiny little details like that like if you miss them, they don't like fuck the story up, but when you do catch them, they just make it like all the richer.
Yeah.
You know? That's where like this definitely does benefit from like repeated viewings, because it's just like, oh shit,
there's
like
more.
Things you just never noticed before.
There's always more. I mean, like I said, like you and me, I remember you were sending me an article that says like 10 things you missed in Hereditary, and there was these like just bullet points of things that I was like, oh my god, what?
But
you know?
Some of them were like huge things. We'll get to the final act, but there's like big glaring things that are like very definitely on screen that I just didn't notice.
Joanie's chalkboard. Were you just talking about that for a second? Joanie's chalkboard. She literally buys it that day. She literally buys the, you know, Louis, do you remember your chalkboard? The one that I bought you less than an hour ago? Yeah, like it's literally sitting.
Yeah, like is it completely just all fictitious?
Yeah, like it's completely made up, because the next scene, what does Joanie do? Hands her the candle, hands her a page that has the same sigil on it. This will make things start. Everyone has to be in the house, and she made a point to say Peter. Like, she does, I don't know what language it is, just repeat it. And she goes, you didn't kill her, Annie. And she, like, leaves. Annie's just like...
Oh, yeah, this is where she grabs her shit, and it's like, like, she books it. She gets the fuck out of the apartment.
Which you would, I mean...
This is where she first starts to, like, really get the inkling that, like, it is real. Shit is legit, you know?
Something's fucked up, man. We get the quietest drive home. This is one thing that I wanted to point. Never has something so subtle freaked me the fuck out. Is when Annie is driving home, she like starts to cry, and all of a sudden she hears.
Let me get a drink of water before I do that. Oh,
and like she hears coming from like the back of the car, and
like back again. Oh god.
She just stops, and I shit you not, like I don't think like after like seeing the previous scene, I don't think I jumped out of my seat, but I did like, oh fuck, you know what I mean?
Oh, it was a jump because it came out like the fuck out of nowhere, and like they hadn't really used that as a scare. It's weird because like we were used to the noise, but the noise was kind of just like an indicator that something supernatural might be happening. But for some reason, this one was so effective. Like this did make people. The person I was with in the cinema literally like yelled out loud. Well, like it's so subtle. It's something small, you know.
It's almost like this noise that Charlie used to make. We're trained to listen for now. Do you know what I mean? We're always in the back of our heads, like thinking about like, oh this or oh that. But what about, you know, like we're always just so freaked out about it. So that night, Annie wakes up to find loads and loads and loads and loads of fucking ants coming from Peter's room, and
so she has to eat fucking sweets in bed now, isn't it?
You know, eating crumbs in bed, bitch. Yeah, so like she
Yes,
goes
I'll
up.
have a plate of crumbs, please. Like she ordered specifically crumbs.
Read me down, huh?
One box of crumbs, please. Yeah.
To go. Can I get that on
I'll
Just
have
Eat?
crumbs over crumbs on the rocks. Yeah.
Shaken, not stirred, please.
Crumbs, straight up. Yeah. I'll have one martini glass filled to the top with crumbs. Thank
What
you.
percentage is that? She follows them into Peter's room and finds the fucking most disgusting sight of these ants. She finds out that the origin of these ants are crawling out of Peter's head.
Yeah, and we were supposed to get a cutscene, basically this scene, but like kind of more in depth, where we see that like Peter has no eyes; the eyes have been eaten out.
Yeah.
And we get this in sketches in Charlie's Notebook later, where we see Peter with his eyes crossed out.
It's like, I'm telling you now, guys, it goes downhill from here, like so fucking quickly. so
and it
fucking
calls
quickly.
back to earlier. The ants call back to earlier, because when we get that flash to Charlie's head is also covered in ants.
We very quickly realize that Annie is sleepwalking again, and she wakes up in Peter's room, and Peter asks, like, why do you hate me? And she just word vomits everything. Like, she holds nothing back. I never wanted to be your mother.
And then, but she does the, what's that? There's that other meme where she puts her hand over a thing, and the subtitle is "Start beatboxing."
And he asks, like, I love how bitterly he asks why, and like the only thing she replies is because I've tried everything. I didn't want you to be born, and like all of this kind of thing, and it's just like
I love that line, because you can read so much deeper into it. It's not that like I didn't want you, Peter. I didn't want a child. Yeah. I didn't want anything that my mother could, quote unquote, stab her hooks into.
Yeah. Like it was almost like she was preemptively striking at her grandmother in vengeance, you know, like for the way everything
like you're
happened.
Not going to get my kids. Yeah, exactly.
Shit devolves. Shit devolves very quickly, and
but like as this scene is progressing, both of them are getting more and more soaking wet, until eventually at the kind of end, Annie is literally just like Annie is like kind of blubbering, and then she's just sopping wet. She's just covered in lighter fluid.
Yeah, and all you hear is the, and then whoosh. They both go up in flame.
Oh, it's so good.
And she goes to try to console Peter again by
getting this fucking close to his face. She's maybe half an inch from his face, and it's just like, Peter, wake up. She's like literally right like by his eye or whatever, like that.
Yeah, it's awkward to say the least. She drags both Peter and her husband Steve down into the main dining room. The main dining room, like she's got more than one in that house anyway.
Must be nice. 12 first film, isn't it?
Revealing that she has already done the ritual that Joanie said this will make things start. And we again get...
I'd be so down for this though if my mom was like, right, come on, we're doing a seance. I'd be so down for that.
Annie starts to unravel herself. Like, in my opinion, this is where I really start to see Annie losing her sanity and becoming more manic in a way.
Like her speech pattern and everything is different. The tone in her voice is more kind of shrill and high pitched, and she starts to get a little bit more clingy is the wrong word. She starts to get like frantic, kind of desperate, and very kind of like, you have to believe me, we have to do it like this, come on. Like it's very manic. Manic is the word I would say. So
they basically like start to hold hands. She says, like, we need to, like, say these things, we need to call out to Charlie, blah, blah, blah. And I love this one shot where Peter is very uncomfortable. He's like, I don't like this, I don't want to do this, I don't know that. And she replies to me, like, this is the way we can talk to Charlie, we can get in contact with her again. And it's such a very Wes Anderson shot where it goes from Annie, pans over to Peter, okay, I'll do it, and then it pans back to it pans right to Steve and Annie, and I just think it's such a Wes Anderson shot.
Yeah,
you know, like, it's just so good.
It's like that's like the highest level of comedy that you're going to get in this film is like stupid little shots like that, you know?
Yeah.
Things that are not supposed to be funny, or things that are just going to seem a little bit like ridiculous, like a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
You know, they're still horrific. Like, everybody is still very like panicky in this scene. And this is also another scene of very, very good acting between Toni Collette and Alex Wolff, and Gabriel Byrne is just there. Like, their little dialogue together when things like finally start to like happen, and Annie for a moment is possessed by Charlie in a way, because she's talking, and then we get that kind of moment where she kind of like flashes back, and we get Annie saying like, "Mom, Peter," like in Charlie's voice.
Yeah.
And then it starts to like kind of warp a little bit. It starts to get a little bit more G major. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Shit devolves very quickly in this film, and this scene is very much one of those scenes. It goes from bad to worse. Peter starts freaking out. Steve like immediately does that thing where you look under the table, try to find out like what's going on, all that type of rationalizing everything. And then
because they have the
eventually,
board and everything out there. They have like a little planchette and everything out.
Yeah.
And we get like movement on the table where glasses and everything start to move.
Like the candle.
And Peter is just distraught. Peter is literally just like, oh, I don't want to do it. Like, he's freaking out. Yeah. And then we get that scene with the like, where the candle goes up. Very Exorcist.
I was just about to say that.
And then Steve just throws a fucking glass of water over Annie.
So
snap out of it.
What happens is we get kind of this quick transition again to another word that is inscribed, two words actually, that is inscribed on the wall of the living room. Because I actually like quickly researched this. It is in the living room, and it says "Lift Hoc Pandemonium." In Latin, specifically, it's just described. Sorry, "Lift Hoc" is Hebrew for open, and then "pandemonium" can be understood in its most common phrase as chaos. So it just means like open this house to chaos.
Pandora's box is open now. Like it's going down. There's no going back from this point.
Spoiler, there's a cult and witches saying that like you're fucked from this moment onwards. You're fucked.
Yeah.
Like there ain't no going back.
And it's
these
little moments of seeing these little inscriptions and stuff on the wall are another indicator that the cult has been in the house.
Yes.
They've been there already.
The following day, Peter is in, for the final time, I should actually point out, the final time that Peter is in class, he immediately gets this sense of unease. Like, again, Peter is still practically catatonic, in my opinion. He reacts to very little going on around him, and he's sort of just on this whole kind of, like, I want to say, like, the lights are on but nobody's home kind of thing. He's just there.
1,000-yard stare. Yeah.
You know, and he's just kind of going from, he's literally living from moment to moment to moment, going through it. As you would. I mean, like, you unintentionally killed your sister. Like, I mean, I don't think either of us could ever even think of, like, how that would make a person feel, or, like, how that might... By this point, Peter is so broken down that he finally starts to see and be influenced by what's going on, and that's evident by seeing, for the fourth time I want to say, the flashing blue ring of light. It appears in the classroom with him, and only he can see it, which is crazy to me.
And this is where we get kind of like while all of this is happening, Annie's going through those boxes again. Like kind of at the same time as this is happening, and Steve is just somewhere, I guess. And he's in work. All these possessions. Oh, he actually is at work. We do see him at work at a couple of points in this movie, like at a desk. So Annie's going through these books and everything again, and this is where all the pieces start to like finally click together, and things get a little bit more spelled out for us. This is where we get the reveal of Annie finds the mats that her mother has made, and she suspected earlier that the one on Joanie's doorstep was like made by her mother, and this is where we get the photographs of Ellen and Joan together like years ago, like when everybody was like significantly younger, both with the sigils on their neck. And this is where we learn who we're dealing with. This is where we learn who Paimon is.
Paimon. the big bad, I want to say. So we finally understand that Paimon has been all along the blue ring in the movie. That he has been
the driving force behind everything.
For context, Paimon is the devil's right-hand man. He is a king of hell, and he is preceded by the sound of trumpets, and he sits on a camel and apparently wears the face of a woman.
Yeah,
exactly.
A beautiful face, yeah. Accompanied, he has three heads on the waist.
Yes, he collects a certain amount of trophies from victims. Which we'll,
and you can kind of see this in the sigil. There is the kind of actually, that's what I made you for Christmas this year. Was the Paimon sigil.
Oh, you guys, you'll love it. We'll stick it up on the Insta later. It was a great Christmas present. I only put it up for special occasions. When we
gatherings, beheadings,
cult meetings, all of that. I want to show my props to the big man. Ari Aster did not want to do the whole kind of traditional. Oh, it was the devil. It was Satan. It was Lucifer the whole time. Now there ain't nothing wrong with that. I love finding out.
Satan, you fucking hack. We've seen it. You fucking washed up. Yeah.
I'm not
Satan
going to say
is old news. It's all about the princes of hell nowadays, don't you know?
The dukes, the barons, all of them.
Satan is a fucking has-been. You heard it here first. Lucifer, you can stick my dick. Hack. Yeah.
But Ari Aster was very adamant that he wanted to kind of put something together where it's not so much mainstream enough to have something like Paimon, who right up until that point, I'll be fair, I've never heard of before. I only afterwards started researching myself who this demon was, and I just found it so interesting that
I recognized the name from a couple of songs. There's a band I listened to called Coven, and Jinx, the lead singer, her cat was Paimon. She called it Paimon. But
Paimon, ugh. Plebs.
White people, am I right?
White people. But, so Annie does discover through again, like she discovers the script of the last 20 minutes of the film.
yeah, literally, she finds a box that's labeled "Your mom was a fucking cult leader and Joanie is an evil bitch." Basically. And it's like that. Yeah, that's another one of those moments where it's like, if she had picked up one extra book at the start of the movie and flicked like one page into it, like nothing ever would have fucking happened. She would have been, wait, you knew my mother and you're wearing that same pendant around your neck. Whoa. You know what I mean? Would have ruined the whole fucking movie.
Yeah, she does go into that photo album and she does discover that Joanie is part of Ellen's cult of Paimon. and the fact that they're together in almost every single photograph. It's so strange. And like
Very
almost
close. Lady friends.
and that like Ellen is definitely into a golden shower for sure.
Yeah, what did I say last week where it looks like she's Ellen is sitting there in like a white dress and everybody's just throwing coins at her. That is the least optimal money to throw at somebody. Don't throw coins. And they didn't even look like money. They look like chocolate coins.
Chocolate coins, yeah. It's
They
just
were so big. Everybody's just throwing money at this woman.
It's just such a strange like photograph to see, because like she's clearly in like what looks like a wedding dress, and she's like super happy,
it's
and
like
everyone is just dropping coins, over her. It's just so weird. Annie does go to Joanie's house, and she does try to she tries to get in, but like revealing that Joanie is not there. Yeah. But we do get a shot of the inside of the house, and we very quickly realize that shit is going down. Shit is fucked up, because everything is draped in white sheets. There are candles everywhere. Charlie's pictures of Peter with the eyes scratched out. Charlie's toys are worshipping each other in bent knee positions, and the Cult of Payment sigil is literally inscribed everywhere. It's so weird. Right up until this point, like, you didn't see the signs. Like, as an audience, like, it's spelled out for you right there. But we do find out that...
Yeah, it's very, very well done, though. Because, like, I actually kind of didn't suspect Joan as to be, like, directly involved in everything. Mm-hmm. Like, Joan is kind of to me, like, it's kind of implied that she's, like, now the new cult leader after Ellen has died.
Yeah.
Like, she's the one that's really, like, hammering things forward. Because we also do get a scene earlier of... I don't know, I think it's just coming up. Like, it's the next scene. We see Joan outside Peter's
I was school, just about to say that, yeah. It's revealed that...
Peter!
She goes... I literally have it here, like, with an arm raised. She goes, Satany! Dagamy! A paragon! Peter!
Yes!
I expel you!
Her.
Get...
And she drops into a split.
Out!
Pulls her wig off, throw her veil underneath.
I love the reaction that Peter does have to this, because he's still in that catatonic state, and he literally just lifts up his head and starts frantically looking
it's
around
real frantic.
him.
And the frame rate, whatever way the movie is shot, changes as well for those couple of seconds where he's just looking around at all of his classmates. It's very music video-ish.
From this point onwards, everything starts moving very, very quickly.
Much quicker than I remember, actually. I think we even said this when we watched. We were like, oh, holy shit. Wait, this is like the last half an hour or something already. Like, for as like long, like as a slow burn as this movie feels like, it almost ends very abruptly, where it's just like, oh shit. Yeah. It's all going down. It's going down right now.
Annie tries to burn Charlie's sketchbook with all the pictures of Peter in them, because she has realized that the sketchbook is the link. But when the book catches fire, her arm catches fire.
Yeah.
And like, it's very subtly realized, like, you're now tied to this. If this is destroyed, you would be destroyed. So she immediately stamps it out. Peter being back in school.
In high school.
And he's being threatened by, because what he says later is he's being threatened by a force that's looking for him or seeking him. And we see that blue light like swing back and forth across the hallways, and
we get another click as well.
Yeah, so much more.
And this is where he
freaks out.
He's getting very sweaty. Good job, sweaty. And then he looks over to his left where there's a cabinet like with glass in the front of it, and we see him like smiling back. This is the only like cliche-ish horror movie thing where I was just like, oh, where are they going to go with this part?
Yeah.
But it pays off. It does go really, really well. And this is where we get it. Where we get, it's the you know.
If you know, you know.
It's the, you know, possessed by a demon.
Peter...
Possessed by a wind demon.
Peter becomes... The only way I can describe this is it's akin to someone going into an epileptic seizure.
Yeah, like he's enthralled. Like he has suddenly, no control over himself.
His muscles have seized up. His hand
like on the face and everything, the lip is twisted up,
back.
Like up towards the nose.
His eye is slightly turned down.
You can see like the light pink of the inside of the eyelid. It's like, yeah it's all just stretched up.
His hand shoots up into the air in a very like contorted position, and the teacher is asking him like, Peter, are you okay? What's wrong? And then everyone starts to freak out. He does the whole very clearly like,
this is where we get the pan. We get everybody's reaction to his face in the class first, and then we see his face where it looks like, there's just, I can't even describe it. The makeup is so effective. It looks painful. It looks like he's really in a lot of pain. Yeah. And then he slams his face down on the desk once, and then
there's a slight kind of like crunch that you hear, because when he does slam his head into the desk, he doesn't bounce back. Face down. He just keeps his head down and slightly
but
moves
this is like where we get the look in his face of like, it looks like he's like, what the fuck is happening to me? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? We get like the panic in his eyes. And then he pulls his face back up, and then he just like wallops his face off the desk and just breaks his nose. But he goes down nose first. Yeah. Like the nose is the first thing to hit the desk. And it's just like, and this is another moment that I thought was funny, but not because it's funny, but because it's, again, kind of a Wes Anderson, like, cut to, like, let me ask the audience kind of moment. Yeah. Where once he like slams his face down, he's like, he's freaking out. Like he throws himself from the desk, which is where we kind of feel like the hold over him has kind of been broken a little bit. Yeah. But we get him throw himself on the back, and he's like freaking out for like maybe like 15-20 seconds of just continuous like freaking out. And then it pans out to everybody in the class just kind of like, like side-eye. I'm like, are you okay, man? You okay, hon?
They're very much... Are you okay? They're never, ever, ever getting over that. Ever.
It was so great. But this is also another kind of thing, classic possession, or classic takeover of a person's body, where it's like, they have to be... Not only is he emotionally weak, but now he's physically broken down.
It's like a thing...
He's an open... Dave.
Yeah, we talked about this in The Exorcist, where demons, they like to kick you when you're down. They like to
prey on the weak.
They like to prey on the weak, and they like to forcefully take over a body with the least will possible to push back. Annie, who has like decided to go up into the attic, because I think we failed to mention this before, but like there's several times where some of the family members like mention like there's a terrible smell in this house. Yeah. Like they repeatedly mention it, but like no one ever like does anything about it, or no one ever like investigates it. But she decides to go up into the attic to like find out what that smell is. And I think this is where you had a huge problem with this, was the amount of CGI flies.
Yes, what pissed me off was the fact that the flies were, and I actually didn't notice it until this time, but the flies were darker than the darkest part of a dark room, which was really distracting for me. It made them really stick out and made it look like every single fly here is completely CG. It was just a little bit distracting. Yeah. When Annie goes up, who does she find? Well, her mother's body. Her mother's decapitated, burnt, black, rotten body with the payment sigil over top, right? Yeah. And this obviously comes after we've learned that the grave was desecrated, which she didn't know about. Yeah, but the husband, but Stephen, I almost called him Stephen, but Steve did know about this. Steve knew that the grave was fucked up and desecrated, and basically tries to make out, once Steve comes home with Peter, she's frantic. She is like in hysterics, freaking out, saying there's a body in the attic. He basically is, I think you did it. He accuses her of doing it.
Yeah.
And like that, very, very quickly, where I'm like, but you know that the fucking grave was desecrated, and she didn't even know about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or at first he thinks she's crazy for even suggesting that there's a body or something like that in the attic. And it's like, but you already know. You were told this information.
Ari takes Steve down to the fireplace and she wants him to burn the sketchbook because if she does it, she would burn.
Yeah.
And he still refuses to do it. Like, he's like, I'm not going to do this. It's not healthy for you. Like, I'm not going to play into this game anymore and any of this kind of thing. And I'm like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, just fuck it into the fire already. And then she just, like, loses it and fucks it into the fire.
But even if she wasn't trying to sell him on some kind of supernatural element, it's like, A, you're her husband, and B, you're a fucking psychiatrist. It's like, she's not doing this maliciously. It's like, it's very, very obvious that she's breaking down and like not in control of herself, you know, because this is where we got Annie at her most manic and most kind of desperate. And she's literally pleading with him, like, please, like, I love you. Basically, this is her saying, like, I'm ready to die, like, for things to be fixed, and, like, I love you, like, all this kind of stuff. This is her basically saying goodbye to him.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you're a fucking wacko, you fucking crazy bitch.
Yeah.
Or whatever, fuck you.
Yeah.
Basically calls her a piece of dirt. And yeah, they go over to the fireplace, and Annie is like, again, begging him. And yeah, and then she's like, right, fine, fuck it, I'll do it, because she was afraid to do it to herself.
Yeah.
So then she just grabs it out of the hands and just throws it in the fire.
Steve immediately catches a light. He bursts into flames, screaming in agony, while Annie looks on in absolute horror. And
she snaps.
And she snaps.
Her mind is
like
gone.
That blue flashing light. God damn that fucking Payman. Payman enters Annie's body. And she immediately, I love that shot where it's focused in on her face.
She goes from like the mouth wide open to the like
to total zombie.
The focus,
she looks
dead-eyed.
Horrified, fearful, anguished expression to total dead in the eye, you know, zombie. And
again, that's all just acting by Toni Collette.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Give the one a fucking Oscar.
She should have won a fucking Oscar.
When I win my Oscar or my Grammy or my Pulitzer, that's what I'm going to say on stage.
Is that how you say that?
An Oscar. A Pulitzer.
Is that how you say that?
How do you think you say?
Pulitzer.
Pulitzer.
Yeah. I think it's
That's
Pulitzer.
Not what Weather said.
I think it's Pulitzer.
From Scream, dummy. Pulitzer Prize.
Oh, forgive me.
There's only one L in it.
This is sort of where the film goes far out of left turn, and it divided a lot of people. Now, this is literally the last 20 minutes of this film, and it divided people right down the middle, because a lot of people were saying that, wait, hold on, what? How did this work? Like, where is this all coming from?
I think it's where the movie fully becomes out and out horror.
Yeah.
And people, I've heard a lot of complaints that people were like, it's so batshit, it's so out of nowhere. And it's like, no, the point of a slow burn is that, like, this ending was earned.
Yeah. It literally...
They had you on blast for the whole movie, and now you get the phantasmagoria of like, what we've been waiting to see.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, it's... I'm more err on the side of caution, whereas I won't jump to the conclusion. I did not see it coming, but I was more accepting of it after the fact, because I then started to piece everything together from the first hour and 10 minutes of the movie, to a point where I was like, it actually wasn't so far out of left field. If you really look at what was going on in the background, you would have seen this coming, you know?
Exactly. Like, they it was a classic example of like show, don't tell, and they had been telling us, not showing us up until this point, and now it's show, not tell. Because this is where we get kind of the payoff of hearing small things like my mother was trying to put people in her brother's body, things like this. This is where we get this is where we're finally shown those things in action, you know? Which makes me actually really curious as to, like, I know you're super against sequels and prequels and shit like this, and not that I'm saying I want to see this, but I'm like, there is potential for a whole other story like this with Annie, like, younger, like, seeing Ellen's story, seeing the husband start for himself and the brother going through, like, this similar kind of thing. Like, there's a whole other story there that I think would be kind of interesting to see explored in a way.
Peter wakes up in the dark, and we see this wide shot of Peter in bed. Like, it's a very, very long shot, and it's very deliberate, specifically because you were to notice two things. The first thing was, outside, the motion sensor lights are going on and off repeatedly. The second thing, which fucking freaks literally everyone out, Annie, now possessed by Payman, is literally standing right outside.
She is Spider-Man
in the corner of the room, up in the ceiling. And I remember this, grabbing my brother's hand and just being like, do you see? Like Ray Fiennes' Red Dragon, do you see?
No, I did the same thing. I was with seeing this. Didn't notice it. Didn't notice that kind of scare up until when they use it again a couple of minutes from this.
Yeah.
But, it was so good. And that was another one where this is like the point where people started making noise in the cinema again, where people were like freaking out a little bit, you know?
Yeah. It's almost like we were given permission to react. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's how long that shot was. The shot lasted so long that it's literally, I can see Ari Aster literally sitting there going, no, give them another 3 seconds. Hold it. Wait.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can all realize that she's there. You know, like, I can just see that the cogs and the wheels in his head turning when that happens.
There's a piece of goofiness where she goes from one side of the room to the other, and she just like when Lady Gaga did the Super Bowl halftime show, when she came down from this feeling, just like
I do think I would have found it more like I don't think I found that funny. I actually found it really, really creepy. I would have found it more funny if she was still on the wall physically doing, like, clambering across the room, but she did it in mid-air. She was clambering across something invisible in mid-air, and that just sideways, it freaked me the fuck out. Freaked me out.
It's not a detriment to the movie at all, but I thought that one shot was so goofy. It made me laugh.
Yeah, the piano is, like, completely smashed as he goes downstairs. Actually, sorry, I completely forgot to point this out. There's a quick jump cut in between Annie's possession and obviously Peter waking up, is the day to night quick cut transition.
Yeah, that like snap. Yeah.
So I personally, I absolutely love this when I see it in movies, is very quick. But it's a very blink and you miss it kind of thing. So the transition is outside the house, snap frame from day to night. But when it transitions from day to night, unless you're paying attention to it, you wouldn't have noticed it. But
I didn't notice it at all.
The house is completely surrounded by naked people. Completely surrounded. Fully 360 encircling. And I shit you not, I literally, like, I turned around and was like, look, do you see?
No, I didn't notice any of that shit until a couple of minutes after this, where we start to see people kind of moving a little bit, where people kind of like step into frame, like closer into the light. That was like the only time I noticed it. And even a couple of people that we see next in the attic, I didn't notice.
Yeah. there's so many things towards the end. I think it's because it's such an assault on your senses as to the last 20 minutes of the film that there's still a lot of like details that Aster has put in for you to find, and I think it's amazing. Peter comes across his father's charred remains in the dining room, in the sitting room, I should say.
Like, I don't think he was part of any ritual in a way. I think he was taken out just to be taken out.
Yeah. Again,
because like the vibe that I get from the family or from the whole like thing is the fact that it's like you're the only one that's not actually like part of this family, quote unquote. Like you were just married in. Everybody else here carries the bloodline.
You're not genetically connected to anyone in the lineage.
Exactly. Like we can't use you in any way.
Yeah. So then we get the second shot of Annie just, Spider-Manning it out in the back of the room.
Now this is much more obvious though, because it's like we're supposed to be able to see her. She's like well lit this time.
Yeah. I love how like she makes the mistake of making a noise, and like it does this very subtle obscure where it obscures Peter to look at her. And then it obscures her to go back to Peter. And it's just like, in my head, I always think Payman going, fucking creaky, fucking house.
Yeah, exactly. And then I believe this is what makes Peter look behind him, and this is where we see that same man.
Yeah, this is revealed to be...
from the funeral scene.
Exactly. The guy that you and I said at the beginning was but sneering at her in a very
just showing his
creepy
teeth.
way. And it's revealed that he's completely naked, standing in the door.
We get to see dicks in this movie. That never fucking happens. We get to see dicks.
It's just so weird.
Oh my god! Do you think they also got a text from Payman that said, "Party at Annie's house, bring your dick"? Holy shit.
Oh my god, I never thought of that way. Oh my god. So we get a very quick jump scare here. Now, in my opinion, if Ari Aster wants to give me a jump scare, I'm very much against jump scares. I really am. But if Ari Aster wants to give me a jump scare, I am prime roast ribbed ready.
I think jump scares just have to be done well. It has to be more than just a loud noise, and this to me was a payoff. It wasn't a false jump scare. It wasn't somebody thought they saw something. It's like, no, he's actually being chased, which to me is there's more of a payoff. It's not just shock for the sake of shock. Plus, it leads into the next thing that they go into. It is a chase.
It's a chase scene.
But
Annie is in the corner.
She just comes out of the corner of the room in pitch black.
She lunges at him. She is I can just imagine if things had gone the way Payman wanted, he probably would have grabbed him and dragged him up to the treehouse. That's what I imagine. Because that's the only way I can see anything progressing in the story, apart from obviously the way it happened. She chases him through the house up into the attic, where he locks the attic ceiling door
from the inside. From the inside of the attic. Yeah.
And we get, in my opinion, it's a repeated shot of the close-up of the party where someone has a knife and they're just furiously chopping the nuts.
Yeah, it's it's the kind of shot where you're like, oh wait, she's upside down.
Yeah, you have to look at it and you're like, whoa, wait, what's going on? She's just as quick as lightning, repeatedly smashing her head, or her forehead, I should say, against the ceiling, the door of the attic, trying
and this is really
to
sad.
get
this
in.
Is where we get Peter, and he's calling her mommy. And, he's asking her to stop. That makes me that kind of upsets me.
It does,
because it's that real fear. Where exactly, yeah, it's like very, very sad.
Yeah.
And like, because it makes you think of him as a child, like, like he's terrified, and now there's kind of nobody else around to help him. Like in this instance, Peter is fucked. Like there's nothing that he can do. Again, like you said, the house is surrounded. His father is dead. Annie isn't.
Yeah.
Like Annie is not Annie at this point.
Again, it kind of harks back to the tale of Heracles and his doom that was foretold for him by an oracle, and his futile attempts to stop that from happening. Which, like, again, like, it just tells you, like, Ari Aster literally told you in like the beginning, the first like 15 minutes of the film, this is what's going to happen. Like, Peter is
one of those things where it's like, no matter how many different routes all the characters could have gone down, it was always going to end this way.
Yes.
Which is terrifying, which is really, really terrifying when you think about like the idea of fate, you know?
Yeah. We find out once he's up in the attic, we find that the grandmother's body, who was placed there, the distended black headless corpse, is now gone and has been replaced.
Which is my drop name.
Which is now gone and has been replaced by the exact same photograph that Joanie had in her house of Peter with the scratched out eyes. Again, the flies are there, very distractingly so, and he's freaking out. He's terrified of what's going on.
I hate that I noticed that about the flies.
Yeah, but it's sort of those things where I can forgive it.
No, it doesn't ruin the movie at all, but it's the fact that we saw it like in 2 or 3 separate shots where it's kind of like, that's disappointing. Whatever though.
I can forgive it though. It's not in your face so much, but like it's there. So Peter,
it doesn't ruin the movie for me at all. It's just watching this back again with a critical eye. I was kind of like, oh, yeah, okay, whatever then.
So we get, I'm gonna say it, iconic. Iconic.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's really gorgeous.
It's beautifully lit, side lit, I should say, from the rafters above her. But Peter looks up to find.
And we hear it first.
Yes, we hear it. The whole from side to side.
Yeah.
He looks up to find his mother, Annie,
garroting herself,
floating in midair, high in the rafters, with both hands either side of her neck, holding one of the piano wires that she had ripped out of the piano before Peter ever came down the stairs. She's she starts off slow, very slow.
And she's staring at him. Her eyes are wide open.
Eyes are locked on him. And I love the fact that he's basically at that point where, you remember the girl from the Blair Witch? Where she's like, eyes are raw red, there's dripping out of her mouth and her nose. Like, they're past the they're past that point of fear where it's not going to scare her, it's just going to push, just going to be pushing you further and further and further. And that's exactly what Payman's plan is to push Peter to the brink of absolute mental collapse, so therefore he can inhabit him, which is the plan all along.
This is like these last couple of minutes, this is where the conversation is going to get
really fucked up.
Very fucked up and very theoretical, because everything up until this point I feel like is very matter of fact in a way. But with this, the last couple of minutes of this movie, which are kind of now, right after Annie is, because we actually don't see Annie's head hit the floor or anything. We just see her like
she speeds up.
But before that happens, he looks out and he sees that there's more people in the attic, and that's when he and like he jumps out the first story window. And this is where we were saying last week that like we believe that when Peter hit the floor, that's when Peter was dead. Like Peter wasn't Peter anymore, because we see we actually hear when he hits the ground, we hear like a doof, like, which is Annie's head hitting the floor, and then we see the blue light. Eamon
Yeah.
kind of go over Peter's body, and then Peter stands up and is okay.
Yeah.
Quote unquote okay.
I love the
Because
fact.
it's not Peter anymore.
I love the fact that, and after like you hear Annie's decapitated corpse, her head smacked to the floor, you can see her shadow slowly, very very slowly, just float across his body and away. And then you can see that light.
This is another shot that people thought was goofy. Some people in the cinema laughed with me, right? I didn't laugh out loud because that's fucking obnoxious in the cinema unless we're in a comedy. It's the shot of just her headless body, like it's very Evil Dead. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
Where the body just floats towards the treehouse and up into it. That made me laugh.
I actually didn't think it was funny. I legit thought it was like, just another thing for me to like not be able to unsee.
I thought it was goofy looking. I still appreciate it.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me fucking wrong. It sounds like I'm chatting shit. I absolutely love this movie.
Yeah.
But just that scene, there's something about a body that's not very stiff, just kind of being thrown around the place, like the ragdoll effect, just kind of make me laugh.
Yeah. Peter gets up, and as he stares at his mother's headless corpse float across and up into the treehouse, he clucks. He does Charlie's again.
Yeah. And they killed the dog. We noticed also that they killed the dog.
Yeah, you see, this is another thing. This is like one of those details where I was like, there was a dog?
There's actually one shot, which is so stupid. The dog is in the trailer.
Yeah.
And it's just that scene of when Peter wakes up right before all this happens. We see the dog in the doorway, and that's literally the only indication that they ever had a dog.
Yeah. Like, it's just something that I was like, wait, what? They had an animal?
It's the thing that it's like the dog never dies and the kid never dies, and then this both happen.
Yeah, it's messed up. There's another thing that I actually wanted to point out. There are a lot of naked people surrounding this house and treehouse, and I noticed this is something that, again, like watching it for a fourth subsequent time, that I
think I know what you're going to
noticed.
say. You told me this, blew my fucking mind.
Yeah, the teachers, Peter's teachers, are in the crowd. They are cult members. And I did not realize this until I recognized one of the guys standing there, the beard, and I was like, hold on now, I've seen this person before. And then I rewound it and I was like, holy shit. It was the guy, the English teacher guy, who was talking about Heracles' fate. And I thought,
and I think they show us the other teacher that he has who's in the actual attic.
Who's actually in the attic, yeah. He's standing there, like, weirdly enough, he has his hand covering his genitals, but, like, he's still there, and I was just like, well, okay.
I guess somebody didn't bring their dick.
Payman will be obnoxiously angry about this later. So he climbs up, and this is where you and me sort of, like, totally, like, agree with this, because it is said that Payman is heralded by trumpets and horns and all manner of, like, musical instruments, and the soundtrack that plays this particular piece of music is called Reborn. And to only further kind of, like, push it into your head that this is no longer Peter, he gets
because the Graham family are gone.
Yeah, like
there is
none of
no
them
Peter,
exist
only
anymore.
Payman.
Like,
but that's what it is, and like the way that music is composed, like you were saying, it's like Payman is heralded by bells and horns, and a mighty bellowing roar.
Yeah.
And we hear like I was gonna say the beat drop. We hear like the kind of the peak in that song and that piece of music is this like. This like bellowing, like
guttural noise.
It implies like a colossal, like huge, like maw opening and just Latin sound come out. So this is like final transformation for Peter, quote unquote. This is where it starts to get a little bit
confusing
for me. because he gets up there and we see Joan and like we were saying, one of Peter's classmates, one of Peter's friends is also in the cult.
It's so
they
weird.
call him Charlie.
She goes, she reveals, like, oh, Charlie, it's all right.
Yeah.
You're okay now. Because it's implied that Charlie was Payman the whole time. And there's this...
Yeah, like, Charlie was never ever Charlie.
Yeah,
that's why...
It was like...
That's what I was going to say at the beginning, but I was like, this kind of directly relates to the very end of the movie.
Yeah, like, it's implied that Charlie was never Charlie, that it was Payman the whole time, but Payman...
needs a male host.
Needs a male host. And, like, because...
doesn't need a male host. It says in the book she's reading, prefers, a male host.
It's implied that, because Payman inhabited Charlie for so long, Payman took on the identity of Charlie, and this is how I sort of understand it.
There never was a Charlie,
yeah.
Which also makes it even sadder, and also makes me think, like, does Payman have social anxiety?
Like he's unsure what the cool level is in teenagers.
Yeah, Payman's like, I don't fucking know anybody here at this party. Yeah,
I just want to hang around with my demon friends. What's going on?
But that makes it all this sadder that it's like Charlie never existed.
Yeah,
there was never a Charlie. Like there was just a body. She was purely a vessel.
Yeah, it is sort of like, it's sort of like the last kind of oof. Oh God, you know.
Yeah.
Plus, like, I mean, we get that reveal,
and this is where we see that at the.
Yeah, we get that reveal of, like Annie's decapitated corpse, and the decapitated corpse of Annie's mother, Peter and Charlie's grandmother, bowing to a. I want to say it's a mannequin, like, drawing.
It actually looks like, you know, those, like, for art, those maquettes.
Yes, it's a drawing reference. It's a pose
It
reference.
looks exactly like that, but big.
Charlie's head.
With, like, the body of the Tin Man. With Charlie's head just, like, smushed on top with a crown.
It's fucked up, and I love the fact
it's great imagery.
It's great imagery, and you see, this is what I also think is very interesting about the way, I don't want to say Satanism, but like how the demonic cult status has sort of improved from the whole like pentagrams and red hoods and all of this kind of thing to this very...
So like there's more than it just being the devil.
Yeah, it's like it's very elevated art, and it's almost church-like inside the treehouse. You know what I mean?
Well, there is, though, because it makes it so much more... Like, again, we could talk, like me and you in particular, could talk about this particular topic for... We could almost have a whole other podcast about it.
Speaking of topics. We'll get to that.
No, but it's like, I love the idea of it being more than just... There's God and there's the devil. It's like, well, no, there's like so much more in between.
Yeah. That's
like already pre-existed. Like I was reading up earlier, I think like the first mention of Payman is like the 17th century or something like that.
There's a whole,
you know,
like right up until this moment, I think, well, I mean, like I'm a total mythos nerd, so like, now I didn't know about Payman, but I'm a total mythos nerd, and I love the fact that there isn't just God and the devil, angels and demons. There's this whole kind of hierarchy that they place themselves in. You know,
like there's politics to hell and stuff like this.
Yeah, like I mean, they have barons, they have dukes, they have princes, they have
there's a succession line. There's like exactly.
It's so it's crazy.
Like you said before that you hate the idea of demons just being like little red-skinned cult men. Like that's just very plain and boring. It's like the idea of there being like an actual hierarchy, because we hear before that like in heaven there's like seraphim and cherubim, like, you know what I mean, there's like different ranking of angels that are all very different things, but they don't really talk about that for hell.
It's sort of, it only makes more sense that if there was a hierarchy to heaven, there would be a hierarchy to hell, and Payman plays into that really well, because he's a king of hell. He is called in from the West. He gives good familiars. He bends all men to the conjurer's will. It's just really interesting to like.
You know, I kind of think I would not have enjoyed this movie as much if it had literally been like the devil, like if it had been like Satan. Like I think that would have let me down a little bit.
Yeah, I would have totally turned around and been like, "Come on, show me more. Give me something else." You know, but I've seen it before.
I also, even though there is possession in this movie, I don't know if I would count it as like a possession movie. Does that make sense?
No, I wouldn't count it as a possession movie at all. I would call it, how do I count it? I'd count it as a cult movie. As like, just like a cult drama, you know? Yeah.
But it's also one of those good and rare instances in which the bad guys win. We get to see the bad guys carry out their plan.
Yeah.
Because to me, and like I've seen, because there was talk about schizophrenia and like very deliberate talk about schizophrenia and kind of mental health about all this stuff, I'm like, no, I like to read this movie as literal. I like to read it as hell is real. These people really do commune with Haman. You know, I like the kind of literal sense, but I'm like, my mind is always rushing for things like this where I'm like, what happens after this? Like, what's the plan afterwards? Now that like Haman is like physicalized on Earth, what's his game plan?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I will, I think I mentioned to this before, but I will say it here. There's a direction here that was like, I kind of see it as interference by production or by the higher-ups above Ari Aster to sort of explain more of what's going on in case you have an audience that wasn't really paying attention. Because Joanie turns out to say, you are Payman. You are one of the 8 kings of hell. And blah, 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 blah. But I thought this was, like, because this, you don't see Joanie say this. You just see Joanie put the, take the crown.
It's very definitely tacked on.
Yeah, like, you see Joanie take the crown from Charlie's emaciated corpse of a head and place it on Peter, who is now Payman. And she just sort of, like, sinks back. But it was also Charlie. Sort of sinks back, and like that's kind of it. I would have loved the way it ended without any of that, because it's sort of lazy to spell it out for people what's actually happened.
It's like it should be show or tell, not
show me,
both.
Don't tell me. If you have to tell me, you didn't project your theme that well. If you have to tell me about it.
Exactly. If you have to show and tell, then it's and see, that is the thing. I feel like that might not necessarily have been up to Ari Aster.
Yeah, I very much feel like this was an influence that was given to him, saying like someone from the higher up said, "Look, listen, man, you're gonna have to do something about this ending because you're gonna lose audiences. They get confused about what's happening."
I'm curious who was the production company, because A24 is only a distribution.
It's a distributor. Oh god, that's a good question. But yeah, it's very much, oh god, like how do I explain this? Like it's very much tacked on. I agree with you there. But I love
an afterthought. It's just like people might not get this, but like I think ultimately it's best to leave things a little bit ambiguous, because then
leave them open-ended.
The conversation continues on. People
it definitely did with us
for ages. But like literally, like we even said getting to the end of this that it's like everything here is pretty much matter of fact, but now everything is kind of theoretical in a way.
Yeah.
There's no
agree.
like hard facts. But I almost wish that they had left it a little bit more ambiguous and not done the whole Charlie, you are now King Payman. I wish they had left that out, because I would have understood that like Peter has now become Payman. Payman is taking over Peter. That's just...
Yeah.
But I would have gotten that just from visuals alone. I wouldn't
Yes.
have needed Joan to say that.
Yeah. It was actually, I just had a look there. It's called Palmstar Media and Finch Entertainment. So I'm guessing one of them jumped in and said, look, listen, you're going to have to do something about this. You might confuse audiences. But again, that's like big companies saying like, yeah, we don't have faith in the intelligence of audiences. And I disagree with that. I fucking hate when I hear shit like that. And I'm like, I totally got what was going on. You didn't need to spell it out for me, you know?
Yeah. But see, also, the idea... Well, see, if this was wide release the way any other horror movie would be, I would understand keeping this kind of tacked down. But the fact that this was kind of limited release, it wasn't super wide, it wasn't super, super heavily advertised. When I went to go see it, my only real options to go see it were at like 10 o'clock at night or like after midnight.
Mine was the exact
like two
same.
screenings a day.
Mine was the exact same when I went to see Midsommar. It was only on once on a Wednesday night, once a week on a Wednesday night, I think at like 10:30, and it finished at like 1 a.m. I hated it. I think you need to have more faith.
Did you go to Town or View for that?
Liffey Valley View Cinemas, yeah.
Nice.
But no one else wanted to go, and I was like, well, fuck it. If no one else wants to go and I want to go, I might as well just go see it. So I went to see it on my own. It was fucking
so
great.
unfortunate. I actually ran into you on my way home from seeing Midsommar, like the day before. And me and Lena were like, you have to see this fucking movie. You have to see this movie.
If I may speak about that last shot, because it harks back to like Rosemary's Baby and like that ending like Hail Satan kind of thing. It just ends with
the year is one.
Like exactly, yeah. It just ends with
Damien. That's Rosemary's Baby's name is Damien.
Oh God, please give me a break. Like it ends with just an outside shot of the inside of the treehouse, if that makes sense, and everything else outside
interior
the treehouse
exterior
is
shot.
blacked out.
Everything else has been like blacked out. Yeah, exactly.
And it's literally
also another triangular building.
Love it. And it literally just it ends with Joanie saying, "Hail Payman!
Hail Payman!"
And then everyone repeats, I think it's like 3 times, "Hail Payman! Hail!" You know, all they're gonna. It's so good, and it just finishes with that. I loved it. I really.
But it's almost another good for her ending.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I knew you were gonna say something about that.
Because, like, again, it's that kind of Rosemary's Baby, Midsommar thing where it's just like, I mean, it could have ended a lot worse for you.
Yes, this is true.
You're pretty much in the optimal position that there is to be in this universe.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You have become like you're completely favored by the bad guy who just won.
We do stand a bad guy, I tell you that much. Yeah, so that is Ari Aster's Hereditary.
Wow, that was a big one. Like, how long was that?
Fuck.
Are you joking?
Yeah, this is the long one. Girl, you're gonna need some fiber to push this one out.
I'm gonna need 2 bottles of poppers for this podcast.
Deep friend of the pod, Ari Aster. You know, we worship.
Deep friend of the pod, poppers.
we worship at the altar of Ari Aster. So a bit of quick news. We have a few quick things to announce, don't we?
Some small, no, not changes. Some new additions to the podcast.
New content coming. New content. Super excited. Our first thing is next week. What will we be reviewing?
We're going to be reviewing Jeepers Creepers next week.
Fucking Jeepers Creepers, dude. Like, you can't get any better than that. That's gonna be fucking sick.
Legitimately scary, some good laughs.
Yeah.
Something a little bit more modern for you guys.
Yeah, we like this idea of sort of jumping back and forth between totally new to totally old to like black and white to, you know, some 90s and early 2000s
to light,
horror.
humorful.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun
We don't always
want
to give you the one note.
Exactly. And we're going to have some fucking fun here. We're going to put it to you guys with a poll up on the Insta. Promise we'll put it up there soon. Keep an eye out for it. We're going to be doing some topics and some discussions on that.
And they're completely up to you.
We're going to make them viewers' choice, or rather listeners' choice, really, I should say. Yeah. We have some very fun topics. We're going to put it to you for a choice of 2, for sure. Yeah, it's just some good stuff. So, yeah, we'll definitely...
That's a taste. That's all you get for now.
That's all you get for now. Yeah, we're doing. So, that is it for Hereditary. I'm so glad you guys got to the end of this, because that's a long, content-heavy episode that we just did. And I do want to say this to, whoever's listening, who actually gives us your full attention for God knows how many hours and just total shit talk. Like, this is for you. We are doing this for you guys to, we're putting our shit out to the universe. So, we want you to give it back. So whatever you think, good, bad, indifferent, leave your comments below and make sure to subscribe.
Don't forget to bring your dick.
Don't forget to bring your dick. Payman said it to his cult members. You should do it too. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Follow our socials, which will be in the description down below. And we're working really hard to get this onto all podcast streaming areas. And hopefully we can do that.
And hail Payman.
Hail Payman! Hail Payman! Hail!
Hail Payman! Unpleasant dreams.